Hi. So we being an option trader, I'm pretty sure that we ignore the most important thing, one of the most important things which affects the option premium, which is implied volatility. So options, when they are priced, even implied volatility also plays a vital role in pricing of the option. So, talking about this particular video, we are going to learn about the concepts related to implied volatility, and most importantly, we are going to understand it through the implied volatility hub in our application. So, implied volatility updates in real time in our application. So, all the data over here present in the implied volatility panel, it updates in real time. So, let's try to go ahead and understand each and every panel one by one and how we can make the most out of it. So first is volatility grid. So it is kind of an implied volatility heat map, you can say, wherein it gives us a summarized view about the implied volatility and the other data points related to implied volatility for each and every F&O instrument. So first, let's take an example of a particular stock. So let's take an example of Ashok Leyland. So Ashok Leyland, we will get to see the futures price, what the futures price is. So it's 146.15. We will get to see the IV, which is implied volatility of Ashok Leyland. So it is placed at 46.81. HV, which is historical volatility, like of last 20 days, which is whatever the data points we give inputs about over here. According to that, application will calculate its historical volatility about how the stock has been performing in last 20 days or whatever number we give, and it will give us the historical volatility of that instrument. Then we will get to see two ranking methods which have been widely used to check in terms of implied volatility scale where we are placed right now, wherein we will get to see what the implied volatility rank is, which is highlighted by IVR. So IVR of Ashok Leyland is placed at 44.83. We'll also get to see IVP, which is implied volatility percentile. So these two, they are basically ranking methods. It shows us that at where exactly the current IVs are trading as compared to its previous data points. Higher the IV percentile, more spiked up the IVs. Lower the percentile and rank low, more cool down the IVs. Further, we can use the sort by feature over here. So right now it is IV minus HV. So wherever the difference between IV and the HV, which is the current implied volatility, and the historical volatility which was been observed, is the highest, that stock will appear on the first. So if I scroll down a bit, so if I talk about let's say Vedanta, so Vedanta's HV was trading above its IV. So we can use the sort by feature and we can identify the stocks where the IVs are at the highest, or I would say where the IV as an individual component is the highest. We can do it through HV as well. So whichever instrument has the highest historical volatility, that will get shortlisted on the first. But most importantly, implied volatility percentile and implied volatility rank. So these are the one of the most important methods of shortlisting or knowing whether the IVs of the instrument have spiked up or what. So as you know that implied volatility carries mean reverting characteristics along with it. If the IVs have spiked up a lot, they will take a cooler down approach, and if the IVs are at its bottom, they are expected to give a spike. Now, if I sort it as per the implied volatility figure, so let's say Idea's 82 IV. So Idea's IV right now is 82. It might be a general IV where Idea's IV kind of oscillates in. But at the same case, for Zeal, or I would say for National Aluminium, 65's IV might be very very high IV. Okay, so it depends upon stock to stock. As the stock's prices are different, same as the implied volatility will also be different. So implied volatility for a stock can't be compared IV versus IV. So we need a ranking method which tells us, looking at the historical data, where the current IV of that instruments are placed at. So let's say I will use IV percentile. So now talking about SCOS, it is in band, so it is highlighted in red color. So Escort's current IV is 97.6, which indicates that the previous IVs of last 250 days were trading 97.6 percentile of the time below the current IV. Similarly, we can go ahead and shortlist it as per the rank as well, wherever the implied volatility rank is highest. Now coming to the next panel of the implied volatility suit in our application, coming to Volsky. So it shows us the volatility curve, it shows us the volatility smile. It shows us on basically what strike price, how much the volatility is. So the 18 and 18,100 is my at the money call. So what it does is it basically shows us the average of call and put for the at the money strike price. So for at the money, it is about the average of call and put IVs, whereas for the other strikes, so OTMs have been plotted over here. So for an example, 18150 becomes my OTM call. So from there onwards, the calls IV would be plotted, and below it, the put IVs would be plotted because those put options would be out of the money. Wherein we have an normalized IV, wherein we have the IV repaired as well. So IV chart, it gives us the historical data, how on day basis the stocks IV were behaving on day basis, on daily basis, how the stocks IVs were behaving, how they were moving actually in last n number of days. We can go ahead and change the look back from here. We can try to increase the data. So it shows us that how on a longer term, how on day basis implied volatility of a stock behaved, wherein green color line on the graph is showing us futures price, whereas the orange line on the graph is showing us the implied volatility on a particular day. So the best part is if I plot any of the stock options over here, let's say Jubilant Food. So if you see Jubilant Food, you'll get to see that there are certain dots mentioned over here, right? On this particular day, which is on 15th of June 2021. So it shows us that on 15th of June 2021, Jubilant Food had announced its quarterly results. Similarly, we can have a look upon this day as well, that on 3rd of February 2021, Jubilant Food had announced its results. Now, what happens is due to unexpectancy, the implied volatility of an instrument goes up. So, generally, before the IV, before the results, so generally, before the results, the implied volatility of the stock is expected to spike up. Once the results are done, the volatility takes a cooler down approach. Okay. So during the result dates, okay, around before the results, the volatility of any instrument you can consider, it generally spikes up, and once the results are out, then no unexpectancy has been left as such, right? So generally the IVs take a cooler down approach once the results have been announced of the stock. Generally, that has been observed in majority of the FNO instrument because the unexpectancy dies, right? So that is how the white dot on the chart shows us the results day. Further, we can have a look on the same data in a tabular format, and we will get to see where the maximum IV was. So maximum IV in Jubilant Food was recorded during this results, which is 20th of October results, and you see how drastically the IVs were crashed once the results were out. So even if you would have bought a put option post the results, you would have lost a lot of premium only due to the implied volatility crash. So the horizontal green line on the graph, it indicates the maximum IV, whereas the red dotted horizontal line on the graph indicates the lowest IV. Further, we can have a look on the historical data of implied volatility percentile and rank, wherein it will show us how on day basis implied volatility percentile and rank of an instrument behaved. So if we focus on this graph, whenever implied volatility percentile goes above 99, it generally takes a cooler down approach. Whereas on the lower side, we can have a look on the same data. The red line is showing us implied volatility percentile, the green line is showing us implied volatility rank. Now let's say if I want to go ahead and hide any one of it, I can do it. Let's say I want to hide futures price, I can go ahead and do it. So I'll directly get to see how the implied volatility percentile and the implied volatility is behaving. Further, we can have a look on the same data in a tabular form. Now coming to the last tab in implied volatility hub over here is the implied volatility, historical data. So it shows us how IVs behaved versus the historical volatilities on day basis. So we will also get to see the other components like historical volatility of high and low, volatility of high, low, and close, wherein it shows us how much the movements happened in the instrument in terms of intraday. Further, let's say if I want to hide futures price from the panel, I can do that. Let's say I want to hide futures realized volatility, I can do that. I can hide any one of it basically if I want to. So implied volatility tool is also available in our mobile application. So don't forget to check out that. And also apart from that, that was it from this particular video. So do check out Implied Volatility Hub and make the most out of the implied volatility. Thank you.